Hey guys, if you like this content, I would greatly appreciate it if you guys like the video and subscribed to my channel. It helps make these videos worth it going forward. What's up guys, Altcoin Tripper here with a crypto market review. As always, this is not financial advice. I am not an expert, do your own research. Today I want to review some of the recent Binance Launchpad tokens such as SUI, ARKM, EDU, SUI, and Space ID. And one interesting observation I wanted to make was checking out the 786 fib and some of the reactions that these tokens have had around that level. Now, when you see a chart open up like ARKM, for example, it's really hard to determine what's going on. And the reason is because there's no previous price history. It's a newly listed coin. There's no real levels. There's no real SR that you can really see. You know, how do you make the best educated decisions when trading this using technical analysis? It's really hard in my opinion, and it's more important to understand kind of the dynamics of these types of listed tokens and like more the psychology and the overall tokenomics behind them instead of the actual technical analysis. So, for one thing, these Binance Launchpad tokens, generally speaking, will have low float on the market. So what does that mean? That means just like a low supply of the a low amount of the total supply of the tokens on the market, and those are generally controlled by market makers. And there's a really good thread, I think, by Thicky Thought that talked about some of the overall dynamics in terms of what these market makers generally do when they receive the tokens, how they, how they basically act after they receive them. But the bottom line is that, generally speaking, you'll see these types of tokens play out one of two ways. Number one, either you'll blitz out right away on the token listing where people will start to buy and the market makers will drive price up. People are going to all start buying and retail is going to start buying and the market makers are going to start selling. And what's going to happen in these situations is that retail is continuing to buy the dip, quote unquote dip, and these market makers, it doesn't really matter because the market makers have such a large control of the floating supply that price is just going to keep going down farther and farther and farther. And another way that we've seen this as well is that you've just seen price go straight down from the get-go. So, like, where's a good example? Like, Hook is a good example of this, and SUI is also a good example of this, where price will just pretty much start nuking from the start. Now, it's important to understand that market conditions are still going to be the biggest factor for this. So, you know, if Bitcoin is pumping really strongly or if some sort of alt season going on, then of course it's going to affect a lot of these tokens as well. But it's really important to understand, A, the environment that these tokens are trading at, and B, kind of like who's controlling the overall supply. And in these cases, it's almost generally always the market makers. So today I just wanted to review and talk about the 786 fib, how you draw this level. You'll see that a lot of these Binance tokens come out with these massive first big daily candles. I just go from the bottom up. I have a fib tool going from the bottom up all the way to the wick, and then that's the fib. And what I've seen over some of the more recent Binance Launchpad tokens, such as Hook and SUI, is that they have strong reactions around the 786 fib. Now, again, as I said, it's hard to trade these things without much price history. Technical analysis in these situations is very difficult, in my opinion. But if you look at some of the other tokens, such as Hook, let's go back to Hook. And what do we see here? We can go as a replay. What do we see for Hook? Hook. So deciding whether or not to chart these long wicks is somewhat of a it kind of depends, in my opinion. Like, these wicks can be pretty absurd, relatively speaking. Like, this entire range, look, it goes from like 12 cents or 8 cents all the way up to like $5. Like, fibbing this entire thing out is pretty ridiculous, in my opinion. And, you know, it's subjective, just like everything else in trading. You could go lower. Excuse me. What we could do is just go lower to this wick here. That's also totally reasonable in my opinion. In which case, this would be more the 618 fib. But let's take a look at it. You know, as I said, you can decide whether or not to chart the long wick, or you could just decide to chart the range high. And it's going to be dependent on how you analyze charts, how you think that price is going to move. This is the 786 fib if you do the entire thing. I would say chart the wick if it's not so obscene. I mean, this is pretty obscene, don't get me wrong, but like relative to price, it was at $3 and $5. I know that's still a large gap, but it's not like it's going from $3 to like $20 where you have a massive wick. It's that way for I think it's Space ID. So, you know, this was the price trading at $1, and then it was all the way up to $2.50. So I mean, I don't know. Like, again, it's really going to be dependent on how you interpret charts. But anyways, let's get back to it. Hook was a token that pretty much went down only, and traded all the way down. I charted this entire thing. Like, I charted from the wick to the bottom, and it settled at the 786 fib. Again, when you are looking at this and you really have no idea where to chart this, like where's support? Support is, you don't know where support is in this entire thing, right? So that's why fibs are a decent area or decent way to chart it, in the sense that that the 786 did provide some support. And what you want to find is, you want to find price, find the bottom where it's starting to basically go, and then it'll start to grind up again. And that's pretty much what actually happened for Hook. Was you saw this type of grinding price action. It did find the bottom, and obviously it went from $1 all the way up to $4. So, you know, really strong move by Hook. And again, just an example of total supply, who's got control of the supply. And this was also, I'll note that this exploded so hard because there was like a mini alt season going on from like the February time period of this year. So that's another reason why this one performed so well. Let's take a look at another one, SUI. SUI had another token where it pretty much, I did from, again, the wick up to the bottom. And again, 786 fib, where we saw price wick all the way down to the 786 around this 50 cent. 50 cents also a area of psychological support where it's, again, a key, it's a key level. And it goes all the way up to nearly doubling to 90 cents, and then it went back down. But again, you could have had a very solid gain just trading the 786 fib, 60% more or less. Now, where does that take us with regards to other types of tokens, these Binance Launchpad? Here's EDU. I think that EDU, again, perfect example where you can just probably trade the 786 fib. If you do believe that the 618 is going to hold around 67, that's fine. But in my opinion, you're better off like kind of going for either the psychological level of 50 cents or just waiting to 40 cents. Expecting something similar to other tokens like that that we just reviewed. ID was another token where I decided to go from the top wick here, or I'm sorry, this top level, and not this wick. If you go to the wick, you could go to the wick, but it just gets a little bit harder to distinguish, in my opinion. I'd rather go from this level here around $1. And this looks actually pretty reasonable. This is one I was thinking about buying. It looks like accumulation around this level. But again, market conditions are not so great. But you know, it has been trading here for about a month, so it looks like it's found a short-term bottom, in my opinion, and pretty reasonable to just buy and just hold for a bit. Where does this lead us to the newest one, ARKM? I think it's going to be the same story as the other ones, to be frank and honest with you. I think this keeps going lower. I think this, I would be a buyer personally for a while, but I did see some weird stuff on the order books where I think 50 cents is like a really strong line in the sand where there's like a huge amount of bidding. So I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see with regards to what happens with Bitcoin. Maybe this like has a different outcome than some of the others, but I wouldn't be in a rush to buy this one personally. I think that as history has shown, some of the other Launchpad tokens just continue to grind down and struggle in that regard. So would just go ahead and be patient with ARKM and wouldn't buy until the 618 at a minimum, if not lower. So anyways, that's kind of my strategy that I'm looking at for some of these overall tokens. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Good luck out there.